The air was sharp with the bite of early morning, the kind of cold that made your lungs burn and your skin tingle. Elena stood at the starting line, her breath fogging in the air, her heart pounding not just from nerves, but from the weight of everything this race meant. Around her, the city was still waking up, the streets lined with a sea of runners, stretching, bouncing, and mentally preparing for the 26.2 miles ahead. But for Elena, this marathon was more than just a race. It was a battle against herself, a test of the inner drive that had carried her through countless miles, both on the road and in life. Her journey to this moment hadn't been easy. 5 years ago, Elena had been a different person, overworked, overwhelmed, and disconnected from herself. She had spent her days in a cubicle, staring at a screen, her dreams buried under spreadsheets and deadlines. Running had started as a way to escape, a few miles here and there to clear her head. But soon it became something more. It became her anchor. The first time she ran a marathon, she hadn't even planned it. She had been training for a half marathon, but on race day, something inside her pushed her to keep going. She crossed the finish line of the full marathon that day, her body aching but her spirit soaring. It was then that she realized running wasn't just a hobby. It was a mirror reflecting her resilience, her determination, and her ability to push beyond what she thought was possible. Now, as the starting gun fired and the crowd surged forward, Elena felt that familiar surge of adrenaline. The first few miles were a blur of cheering spectators, rhythmic footsteps, and the steady beat of her heart. She settled into her pace, her mind focused but her thoughts wandering. Running had always been her time to think, to process, to dream. And today her thoughts were on the unseen finish line, the one she had been chasing her entire life. It wasn't just about the race. It was about proving to herself that she could keep going, no matter how hard it got. Life had thrown her its share of obstacles, failed relationships, career setbacks, moments of self-doubt. But every time she laced up her shoes and hit the pavement, she reminded herself that she was stronger than her struggles. The marathon was a metaphor for her life, long, grueling, and unpredictable, but also full of beauty, strength, and the promise of triumph. By mile 20, the real test began. Her legs felt like lead, her feet throbbed, and the voice in her head whispered that she should stop. But Elena had been here before. She knew this was the moment that mattered, the moment when her inner drive would either carry her forward or let her falter. She thought of all the times she had wanted to give up but hadn't. She thought of the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices she had made to get here, and she thought of the person she had become through it all. Someone who didn't back down, no matter how steep the hill or how long the road. As she turned the final corner, the finish line came into view. The crowd's cheers grew louder, but all Elena could hear was the sound of her own breathing, steady and strong. She crossed the line, her arms raised in victory, not just over the race, but over the doubts, the fears, and the challenges that had once held her back. For Elena, the marathon wasn't just about running. It was about discovering the strength within herself, the inner drive that had carried her through every mile, every setback, and every triumph. And as she stood there, medal around her neck, she knew that this was just one finish line. There would be more races, more challenges, and more opportunities to prove to herself that she could keep going. Because for Elena, the true finish line wasn't a place. It was a state of mind, one she carried with her every step of the way.